how do I perceive Mukesh Ambani will really matter because I place a trust in the branding of Mukesh Ambani to take any major decision when it comes to Reliance. Influencers are growing is because somebody has already has like 10,000 or a million followers and he has put up something. As an audience, I then tend to believe that, okay, if so many people are following him and they're liking his content, he might be correct. Finance knowledge versus the actual practical application of finance is two very different things. I don't know why we don't see a lot of CAs as influencers.
So happy to finally, talk something that is related to personal finance in a certain way. But you can say that it's a bit of an off topic कि आप क्यों एक ब्रांडिंग एक्सपर्ट को लेके आ गए हो उसका पर्सनल फाइनेंस से क्या लेना देना है मतलब पर्सनल फाइनेंस ना ट्रेडिशनली हैज ऑलवेज बीन लुक्ड एट कि एक म्यूचुअल फंड है एक्विटी है पीएमएस है फाइनेंशियल प्लानिंग है गोल्स है हमको इंश्योरेंस है वो सब दे दो हमको उससे ज्यादा कुछ जानना नहीं है बट ऑफ लेटली what I've realized is that personal finance is literally more than money, right? And secondly, we are in an era where gig working side by side, it's you're not working for the same company for a very, very long time anymore. You are working for a lot of projects together. You're working for a lot of people together. And it just like we said, that there's a lot of skills that are at use today. So a person may be, writing accounts in the morning and doing some social media management for a third party in the evening. So these things can always be there, and these things are actually there. So this podcast, Parinita, why I invited you was because both of us are from CA background. We know for a fact that when we are studying, we are putting in those 16, 20 hours a day for 7, 8 months together. We're not learning what is marketing. We're not learning how to market our services. हमको खाली audit करना है, tax करना है, dates आ रही है, GST भरना है. So I mean I can go on and on. उसका कुछ कुछ निकलने नहीं वाला लेकिन उससे but the key component why certain companies let's say in our industry only ना आप देख लो तो Ernst and Young है. They started by two people but there's some sort of branding. There's some sort of branding behind Reliance, behind Asian Paints, behind Tesla. It's Apple, for instance. There's always a branding for the individual as well as the company that not just creates wealth for the person, but for shareholders at large. Correct? So with that, whenever we've had our discussions, whenever, we've interacted a bit and I read your posts on social media, they're so filled with knowledge. They're so filled with raw emotions that come out of you. And that's what, makes me realize that this is your personal brand. You put that effort into, educating people, why that thing is important, how that matters to your success in the long term. So with that, if you can just take a couple of minutes, Parinita, and just explain about, what you do and why did you choose to get out from a traditional CA practice, after doing CA, of course, from an articleship to now becoming a personal branding expert.
Okay, so thank you so much, Jinay, first to invite me on this amazing platform and getting me the opportunity to interact with finance professionals, which has always been my passion. So, why I'm saying this is because the answer behind why I chose personal branding lies there. Some personal circumstance, and I realized that the branding of chartered accountants on a whole is very, very different to the outer world. People, of course, people think, chartered accountants in general are very, very nerdy. Okay. And I'm saying nerdy in a very, very subtle way, but their perception is, not very studious, not very presentable, or they don't know how to put themselves out there or talk to people. And this kind of led me to really dig deeper into what are the areas that exactly chart accountants there's a gap in their learning, and once they become a CA, how do they transform themselves? And like you rightly said, we are taught all the technical concepts in our articleship or our study, but concepts like marketing or sales, how do you sell yourself or how do you sell your services, are not taught. And that is what led me to really jump into this whole world of branding and helping chartered accountants per se to really put themselves out there and get the best of the opportunities that are available. And when we talk about what my work is, so I specifically work with a lot of finance professionals. I help them understand the concepts of marketing, of sales. Of course, when we talk about CAs, we have to take care of ethics. But ethically, how can you brand yourself so that you become a known authority in your field, become a brand in yourself through either offline strategies or through their digital presence, say LinkedIn or other social media platform. That's something we work upon and help finance professionals in general. So when we talk about brands, I think there's a huge gap where we only find brands like, when we talk about brands, we think about brands in general like Apple or a phone. Xerox is a brand, but we generally don't talk about people being brands. So that is the gap that we really want to fill in.
Of course, right. So when we're talking about Apple, we are always talking about Steve Jobs. We're talking about Reliance. We're talking about Dhirubhai and Mukesh Bhai. We're talking about Asian Paints. For the nerdy of us, we're talking about Champaklal Choksis and Dhingra family for but that's what I'm trying to say is they, I mean, was branding an outcome or was an input for them in order to gain this sort of a wealth? Because uh, Reliance has grown at what 30% CAGR since its IPO. You can say 30% around for Asian Paints and all these stalwarts. HDFC Bank, for instance. So those who are in banking cannot discount the work of Mr. Deepak Parekh and so them being stalwarts. But yet, when you talk about the individual, the individual was somewhere driving the brand forward, isn't it?
Of course, of course. See, let's first understand this, that personal branding is not a new term. It's been there, but it's just started being used now. To understand the idea or answer your question, simply put, personal brand is how you are looked upon. There are few attributes about yourself, or there are few characteristics that are so strong in you that reflect in your actions, in your behavior, and people look at you in a certain way. That's personal brand, correct? And now when you talk about these star walls, be it Mukesh or Deepak, Parekh, why their branding is important and how it has impacted the brand of the company. Okay, now let's talk about that. See, any major decisions that are taken in the company, if we can say, is by the top management, and of course these people are the drivers of those decisions. Now, say a stakeholder wants to invest or wants to tie up with a major company like this. The brand, how do I perceive Mukesh Ambani, will really matter, because I place a trust in the branding of Mukesh Ambani to take any major decision when it comes to Reliance. Okay. So, which is why if you see the, like you said, the growth of Reliance Industries or the success of Jio as a company, Mukesh sir is, known as a visionary, as a risk taker, somebody who brings in a lot of innovation in the industry. So, keeping that branding in mind, people will believe in that company and the success will happen. Any stakeholder will get connected with the company because of trusting Mukesh sir's branding, that yes, if he has taken some decision to start a company like Geo, or so that company, of course, has to be successful. Same way HDFC, the way it has grown. If we talk about the top management, people had trust in that top management, in the branding of those individuals, which has led to some major decisions in their mergers, in whatever's happened in the company, and that has led to the company's growth. So when we talk about the top management's branding and the company's branding, even if they are like individual things, it's mutually connected. You cannot separate them. And the fall and rise, a lot of times the fall and rise of the company also depends on the branding of that promoter and the individuals. Take, the incident of Kingfisher. The branding of, Malia really impacted in some way the whatever happened with Kingfisher. So it's mutually, even if it's two individual things, personal branding and the brand of the company, it's not mutually exclusive. Your branding as a promoter will definitely impact the branding of the company.
It's interesting, when you talk about Vijay Mallya and Kingfisher Airlines was just launched. I think we are talking about 2006, 7 or odd or something those days. And those days, people would prefer because that is what luxury would be, and that is what Vijay Mallya has promised. And probably the share price also was reflecting at a certain point in time of United Breweries, and then it stopped reflecting that. पर परी this one when you're talking about आप जब ये बोल रहे हो ना कि ये डिसीजन मेकर्स हैं जैसे मुकेश भाई है और इलॉन मस्क है या विजय विजय माल्या है करेक्ट ये सारे डिसीजन मेकर है बट इफ यू सी द वर्ल्ड ऑफ टुडे आज एक इन्फ्लुएंसर मार्केटिंग इज ऑन द राइज दीज आर नॉट डिसीजन मेकर्स राइट बट वो लोग भी एक ब्रांड बना रहे हैं खुद का नाउ व्हाट इज दैट एंड दे आर रेकिंग इन गुड अमाउंट ऑफ मनी बाय द वे
Very good amount. So these, why they are called influencers is because they are influencing a particular thought process of the viewers, be it any topic आप कुछ भी ले लीजिए, but they are kind of influencing the decisions that the audience is taking, be it to buy something, to sell something, or to look at a particular incident in a particular way. So which is why they are influencing the decisions of people. Now yes, like you said, these influencers are making like loads of money because of social media, yes, but also because now people have started consuming content from everywhere and they started trusting. So why influencers are growing is because I can then, if say for example, somebody already has like 10,000 or a million followers and he has put up something and people are liking, as an audience, I then tend to believe that, okay, if so many people are following him and they're liking his content, he might be correct. I might not do a background check, I might not do the fact checking. But if that person has some amount of following, I'll tend to, it's human psychology, I'll tend to believe that person. So influencer, he's then become a brand in himself and people start following him, whatever advice he's given.
very interesting na there is one guy who is anti CA and yeah you should talk about him.
Not naming, but yes, this gap of finance knowledge versus the actual practical application of finance is two very different things. I don't know why we don't see a lot of CAs as influencers. I think this gap can be filled, right?
It has to be filled now, but when you're talking about the fact that he has a certain following, now when he that person says something, that person says that when we're saying he, everybody's assuming he's a male. So I'm trying to refer to it as that person, and that person is saying कि आपको सीए की जरूरत नहीं है. There are people who are following him blindly, but ये तो पर्सनल ब्रांडिंग का एक गलत इस्तेमाल नहीं हुआ.
Uh, I can say two sides of a coin. I was recently having the very same discussion with somebody, with a non-CA, and that person was, talking about ki we don't know. As a audience, we don't know if that person is right or wrong, but we find it interesting. We find it so okay. So content has two, when we talk about content, and especially when we talk about finance content, there are two aspects to it: relatability and actual practical application. Okay, what these influencers play on is the relatability part. So what they'll talk about the general challenges that audience has, and they'll just give very quick tips, very easy tips, or something very, कि अच्छा ठीक है चलो आप simple सा ये करो and your problem will be solved. But the background that we as finance professionals know कि it's not a one rule applicable to everybody. There are a lot of things, correct? So these influencers are playing on the relatable thing, relatability ki okay, I'll just give relatability and quick hacks, and people will like me because people like, today everybody is looking for a quick fix for everything. So that really helps them. Talking about is it wrong application of personal branding? He is, or he or she, that person is making money, good for him, but of course they're just taking the opportunity and doing the best. I'm not justifying it, but that's the scenario today. So it's like a tool. आप अच्छा use कर रहे हो, बुरा use कर रहे हो. It's in your hands.
पर जब ये देखो एक मीडिया इन्फ्लुएंसर, सोशल मीडिया इन्फ्लुएंसर ना, जब भी ये बात करता है कि लेट्स से एक इन्फ्लुएंसर है इन द ब्यूटी प्रोडक्ट स्पेस, वहां वो बात कर रहा है, तो उसको शायद ही डजंट नीड टू बी अ गुड फार्मासिस्ट टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट केमिकल्स हैव गॉन इनटू दिस. तो आप उसको सिर्फ एप्लीकेशन पे उसको जज कर पा रहे हो कि ठीक है आप लैक्मे का वॉट एवर द ब्रांड में बी. पर जब ये एक पर्सनल फाइनेंस का बात आता है, दैट इज वेयर थिंग्स गेट अ लिटिल मेसी कि हाउ कैन यू टेक एन एडवाइस फ्रॉम somebody who doesn't have a very very deep technical knowledge. And secondly and this is the most important thing, how do people actually judge? मतलब मैं जज कैसे करूं कि परिणीता परि you are this person who knows, or Jinay is a person who knows inside out of equities, and whatever now he's saying is right? Or do I judge because जिनय का जो फ्रेंड है सिद्धार्थ, उसका फ्रेंड है नंदीश, उसका फ्रेंड है मनीष, और वो लोग सारे फॉलो कर रहे हैं ना, तो मैं करूं?
Good question. Okay. So first is coming to the technical part, like you just said, a makeup influencer can just talk about the application key. Okay, if I use these products, I'll look good. But trust me, even that has a lot of science. Each product has different chemicals. It might not suit a particular skin type, and you might get rashes. So even that needs a good amount of research. Coming to the finance, uh, I'll say finance is much easier there because there's no particular degree in makeup. We have been blessed with professionals who can guide you right, be it a chartered accountant or wealth professionals. We have financial planners who know their stuff. So it's easy. In fact, when you talk about how do I believe that I can take the content from this person, or I can believe what the person is putting up on social media. So first is go and check the background. Go and visit the person's website, his LinkedIn profile, where he might have put, he or she, okay, that person might have put the, the qualifications that the person has, the past experience, where that person has worked, for how many years has the person worked, the kind of testimonials that are being put up. It's not through very common people or, youngsters, because youngsters tend to get influenced fast. So if you have people, who are experienced, who have a good background, and they are putting up some testimonials, is something that you can still trust. But background check is very, very important. Second, I feel when it comes to finance, this is my personal opinion, not putting up for everybody, but when it comes to finance, when it comes to tax or these concepts, I feel a personal touch. If I go and visit a person, first meet and get a trust of that person, like physically, I think that works for me. Or I suggest it should be the first step towards trusting a person's advice on finance or wealth. Try to know the person first and then try to believe what that person is saying, because फाइनेंस इज नॉट कि तुमने एक हैक किया और तुम्हारा सॉल्व हो गया. It's interrelated. One decision of yours will impact everything. Your tax, your filing, your everything is impacted. So I really feel finance is something you should, not because I'm a CA, but because it's a very big thing. It's a very important decision for each and every individual, and you should only trust professionals for it. So please have a good background check, not somebody from engineering background.
No, I completely agree here, कि उसका background होना जरूरी है. I think I also sometimes feel that people, who know their job, जिसको ये सारी चीजें पता है कि ये कैसे होता है, कैसे चलता है, will be a lot more calm in the way it is being presented. They won't be hyper. Is that one sort of a clue जो एक ले सकते हैं? Because a lot of these influencers that I see बहुत hyper होते हैं कि एक background music चला लेते हैं थोड़ा, they talk fast, they're more like sales people, and it's been my experience that the one who understands the concepts inside out are very calm, very composed. They know what to do.
So hard selling versus building a brand. When you're trying to hard sell something, you will be very aggressive with your methods. Like you said, these are all the marketing tactics, because the attention span of the audience has become so less that you need to grab their attention. Okay. Now you can grab the attention in a short term or a long term. When you want to grab their attention in a short term, you need to use all these tactics like, speaking fast, things are coming here, great video editing, great background music. You're going up with the trendy music and everything, and you grab that attention. Okay. I'm not saying it's wrong, but yes, that's something that people do to gain a lot of followers in a shorter period of time. And when you really are into building a brand, a long, sustainable image of yourself, you will focus more on the quality of the content rather than these fringes, like I'll say, the music or the background and all of this. If you really want to build a brand, and I feel when you are a very professional person, you're more focused on the quality, you're more focused on the sustainability of what you're doing, rather than just building a business out of it. So I think that's my take on that.
I think fair enough. वो short-term attention grabbing is also one of the strategies I can now I'm relating to. And yet, what happens is that कुछ लोग कर पाते हैं, कुछ नहीं कर पाते. There's a very interesting question on the uh, Thinkleys community group जहाँ पे so Jenny is asking this question कि what role does LinkedIn's algorithm play in brand visibility and how can a person leverage it effectively? So she's asked the question to the right person who is the LinkedIn's top voice in personal branding. So she's done her homework before giving you this question.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Algorithms are tricky, be it LinkedIn or any social media platform. Um, as a LinkedIn professional, it's my work to, follow algorithms, but I won't do that every time. Like I again said, if you are looking for a short-term growth, okay, you want to make it quick, you follow the algorithms. Okay, for example, currently LinkedIn algorithm says or promotes a lot of content which has a picture of that person themselves. Content kuch aur hi hoga, like the content might be talking about uh, personal finance, and the image is you, sitting at a hilltop or something, nothing related. But if it's you in the picture, the algorithm works better. Okay. But if you're looking for building a long term sustainable brand for yourself on LinkedIn, stick to what is authentic to you. If you are not personally comfortable putting up your picture, don't. Stick to a strategy. Say if you really just want to talk about personal finance, stick to it. Know here and there. Build a good community on your LinkedIn, and it will really work for you well. If you follow this consistently over a period of time, there's no shortcut. There is no key, okay, I can gain like lakhs of followers in 6 months. If you are looking for that, follow algorithms. Otherwise, just focus on building a good, sustainable brand over a period of time.
So there's another question that is related to this. Siddhi is asking, कि how was your personal brand evolved? I mean, how has it evolved over the years? And what influenced those changes? So have you stuck to that way, or I mean, how have you gone about it?
Interesting. So, when I started my work, I was just a chartered accountant who was exploring something. And I was very frankly, 9 years back when I started my company, uh, and I was still exploring as to how do I position myself, what should I call myself. And for a couple of years, to explain people what I do, I used to call myself as a personality development person. Like, at that time, like 8 years back, personality development was a big thing for people, for students, for young professionals. We want personality development coach. So, and to explain people what I do, I used to term myself as personality. Set 5 years back, I took this decision very aggressively. I started calling myself as a personal branding coach, even to people who didn't understand. I started using this term, even if people used to tell me, okay, so you're a personality development coach. No, I'm a personal branding coach. Trust me, 5 years back, people didn't know what personal branding means or who this person is or whatever. I used to, work a lot on how people are referring me as. And today, luckily, the status is such that even one thing, one test that you can take, whether you are actually building a brand for yourself or not, is how are your relatives and your friends, even if you're meeting those friends are after a long time, how are they referring you to as? if your relatives have started calling you in a particular manner that you wish, okay, you build a brand for yourself. Because it's very difficult to explain your work to a relative or a friend because they take you like really lightly. But then today, people actually in my circle, in my relatives, they've started referring to this term. Okay, you are a branding coach, you work for branding and personal brand. So you have to consciously use particular terms for yourself. You have to consciously introduce yourself in a certain way that people start remembering you the way you want them to. So my journey has been, I'll say, amazing. Um, Building that brand, working on whatever strategies that I talk about, I have applied on myself. I've seen the results and, the growth of how personal branding really impacts the way people look at you.
I think it's very interesting, ये मैंने कभी नहीं सुना है किसी से कि how will your friends and relatives, because when you were talking this, I just was just thinking because I think thanks to Thinkly, I've been doing these podcasts now very regularly, and Thinkly does the major job. I'm just here as a, face, which is not even that pretty, as the other hosts are. So, but yeah, I mean, there is a sense that now I have started getting is that कि मतलब ये इस बंदे को अपना काम आता है. He is he's visible every now and then. More opportunities come in. More people want to do, collaborate or work on different projects, and you're there around them. So relatives ka to, I don't know, not the best person to speak about, where millennials, we are the sandwich generation when it comes to relatives. So, but yes, I think this is a very powerful litmus test, I must say. कि when they start acknowledging, because they are the ones जो हमेशा लास्ट में आपको एक्नॉलेज करेंगे, करेक्ट? मतलब कितना भी अच्छा कर लो, they are the ones who are going to do it at the last. I fully agree to it. There's a question which is very important, very interesting from Vinod. I think Vinod also resonates what I feel at times. So he says, how can introvert? So I also resonate with myself as an introvert. I don't come out as that is a very different thing. So introvert utilize certain technical skills to build a powerful personal brand. तो वो कैसे हो सकता है?
Interesting. Vinod, I'll tell you a secret. Even I'm an introvert. So first of all, what happens is people think introverts are people who speak less and extroverts are people who speak more, but that's not the fact. Like even so, like Jinay just said, uh, he might not come out as introvert. People not feel that he's an introvert. He himself feels that he's an introvert. So first of all, being an introvert there's nothing wrong with it. Okay, so don't think if app introvert ho, so you won't be able to create a brand for yourself. That's not true. I'm an example. If I can do it, anybody can do it. I'm a big introvert. Now, brand is not built on the quantity of communication that you have. Brand is built on what are you saying, to whom are you saying, and how often are you saying. Okay. If you are saying the right quantity of things to the right audience at the right time, you'll build a brand for yourself. So don't think you need to post every day to create a digital brand. Even if you're posting like twice or thrice in a week, very good, relevant content, and you are connected with the right people on your platforms, sending the right message, you are creating a brand for yourself. So speak less, that's fine, but always know what you want to speak, have your content ready, even if, this is something that I practice even today. if I'm going to meet a new person, be prepared of what you're going to speak. Don't just go and meet the person ki dekha jayega whatever I want to have communication. And especially for introverts, it's all the more important because you're already scared of how will you handle. But once you're prepared, you'll be more like comfortable and you'll speak the right quantity and the right quality of what you want to speak. So digital or offline, if you are speaking, like I said, what you have to speak, the quantity, whom are you speaking to, when you're speaking to, if you're clear about that, don't worry, branding is for everybody.
I'll just give one more question that's come from Raj. It's a very interesting question. Do you incorporate AI and automation in this? Because I'll tell you my perspective. मैं क्यों ये बोल रहा हूँ क्योंकि मैं जब भी सबस्टैक पे आर्टिकल्स रीड करता हूँ ना यू कैन गेट अ वेरी क्लियर सेंस कि ये इसमें इमोशन है कि नहीं है मतलब ये इंसान ने लिखा है कंप्यूटर ने लिखा है तो मेरे को तो मजा नहीं आता बट इट बिकम्स ऑल्सो इजियर फॉर दैट पर्सन टू राइट तो हाउ डू यू ब्रिज दैट
Interesting, very interesting, because we cannot run away from AI, but still, let's look at it from two perspectives. Somebody who's very somebody who's comfortable with writing and has time to write can build their own content or write something on their own where emotions are seen. Like you said, you can, especially people who read a lot, will easily identify if a person or human has written this or it's AI generated. Pata chal jata hai. But if somebody is a new person who doesn't have time and who wants to build that brand for themselves, chalo likhna hai content पर मुझे नहीं आ रहा है and I don't have time, what I suggest is, first of course I'll always suggest ki write on your own, even if it's 3 lines. You're not writing an essay, you just have to write 3 lines on your own authentically. Just get the grammar check. There is AI, आपको यूज करना ही है, AI आप यूज करो, ग्रामर से चेक कर लो, write on your own. But still, if you don't have time or you're not a writer person, what you can do is take ideas from AI. Say you want to write about 3 challenges that people face when they are planning their personal finance. Okay, just go on chat GPT, write this topic, let that AI generate content for you. But then what you can do is add your own words there, in the sense you can add your own experience or something, some kind of conversation you had with somebody on that particular subject that was suggested by AI. So what you can do is take ideas from AI, but write short things on your own. That will give the human touch to what you're writing. Trust me, to build a genuine, long-term, sustainable brand for yourself, the more you write on your own, people connect with you. Otherwise, they stop connecting with you because wo pata, like you just said, it's very evident who has written.
I think being genuine is one of the most important, qualities that a person should have. So that answers even Aisha's question कि कौन सा एक quality है that will make that personal brand stand out. I think genuineness is there. So moving ahead, I think Janisha has also asked a very important question here कि एक clear vision होना चाहिए क्या? I mean, when you are building a personal brand, if yes, then how do you go about it? How important it is, and how do you go about getting that vision? So if I have to think about it from अपना conversation, you said कि आपने 5 साल पहले सोच लिया. तो just walk us through that कि आपका vision क्या था और एक जो आज start कर रहे हैं, the people who are starting today, वो क्या vision से start करें?
Um, this is there's a very beautiful activity called creating your vision board. I don't know how many people are aware of this or not, but it's a visual representation of all your dreams and whatever you want to achieve in life or whatever you want to be known as. It's just a good representation of that. So what I had done, I built a vision board for myself. I think 8 years back. I kind of try to revisit that and try to change that every few years because your vision, your wishes change in life. But what I so the steps that you can take to build that vision for yourself to create a personal brand is first is build a vision board for yourself, which is what do I want to achieve in the next 5 or 10 years? You should know that. Even if not like very, very defined goals, what kind of a vision? Say, for example, 5 or 8 years back, I knew I want to build a brand for myself who is making an impact in the CA community and the finance community. Okay. My path was um, helping them in the grooming. Now, 6 years back, the grooming part changed and digital part entered because that is the time, 2020, 1920 is when digital impact really like skyrocketed. Correct. We all know about the COVID also then and how people achanak se became active online. So then I knew that I want to create an impact on the digital. So what you need to do is you have to be a bit far visioned. Ki, ये question पूछते ना कि how do you look at yourself 5 years or 10 years down the line? That question is actually valid because you have to create a vision for yourself. Ki, okay, I want to be looked at in a certain way. If you are in a employment, 5 years down the line, you want to be looked as a leader. Now, leader में क्या qualities होनी चाहिए? That person has to be strong decision maker. That person has to be very, very focused and has to have a very, very focused skill in some way. Now, to develop that, आज आपको क्या काम करना है? How do you start introducing yourself? Like I said, introductions are very important. How do you start introducing yourselves? What are the skills that you need to work on to become that focused person or to become a good decision maker? You have then start building a brand that way. Okay. So I started calling myself as a personal branding coach for chartered accountants, creating a digital path for your success. And that has been consistent in all my introductions, in whatever I'm writing, whatever kind of conversations I'm having. It might sound self-promoting, but it's just building a brand.
No, I don't think it is self-promoting at all. And I think first impressions last. But how do you build that first impression, is what even Varda is asking. Ki just said ki, because it's you said it very wonderfully कि वो जो 10 साल के बाद आपको बनना है ना उसका सीड ब्रांडिंग में आज से आपको डालना है. So how do you do that?
First is never dress for today, dress for tomorrow. If you are at an executive level, start dressing like you're already a manager. If you are a manager, already start dressing up like you are a senior leader. Of course, you have to do that subtly. ऐसा नहीं कि अचानक से you become this, but there has to be indicators in your action. So first impression, how do you, when you're looking at a person, what are the elements of first impression? One is your dressing. So like I said, dress for the next stage. Second is the way your body language is. I have this observation. finance professionals have a very closed body language. Matlab, they'll be standing with their hands closed with a very lousy, shoulders, very closed body language, like they don't want to interact with anybody. So that's the usual body language that you see. Come out of that. Be open to have that conversation. Invite people to talk to you through your body language. Okay. And the third is the way you introduce yourself. The more powerful your introduction is, the more relevant your introduction is, your first impression will always be powerful. And that's just the first step towards building a brand for your next 10 years. Of course, this introduction will keep changing. So don't keep your introduction constant also. But that's like the first step, baby steps you can take.
I think it's quite interesting. He dress for the the next stage of life or anything. So now I'm just trying to resonate this, when you're saying कि आप बात भी वैसे करो, have your body language be in that way. And if you can see that in the famous Ambani wedding that just went by, right? These guys are like the children are actually showing what the business is capable of. So you're telling there are certain messages, right, that you're telling the world. Ki, see, this is what I'm just trying to think from shareholders' perspective. I want you to expand on how was that a personal brand when they spent that 6,000 crores on Anant's wedding, right? So what I could sense was ki, there's a wealth in display. India is not uh, it's not a throwaway opportunity when it comes to institutional investments coming into this country. So we have people who can spend so much on a wedding that the others cannot even garner that kind of a market value in their lifetime of running that business. So these are certain things. What was from a shareholder's perspective, what was it from a person branding perspective that you could see in that one instance that the Ambani family did?
So you put this very correctly that it is about what you display and what message are you putting across. Like you'll hear so many incidents on social media that people have put up key before this, like not from India, okay? This is people talking from countries like Europe or US where India's image is not that great. Okay. I'll talk about my personal incident. I was interacting with a French lady in Vietnam, and we just suggested her, why don't you come to India? You've been to Vietnam country. Like you can very well come to India. She's like, no. I mean, India is not that great, and it's very dirty and this and that. And we were shocked. Why this perception? Because of the movie Slumdog Millionaire. Now imagine if one movie can change that perspective. In the same way, this wedding changed a lot of perspective for people, where people really put up on social media that before this wedding we didn't even know who Ambani is or if people like Ambani's existed. But when celebrities, like Kim Kardashian and these people, Rihanna performing, it really impacts the way people started looking at India. Don't take India lightly. It's not, like you said, throwaway country. It's the next thing that is happening. And for the Ambanis, it was a positioning that we are people who will impact what comes next to India. And so many collaborations have happened in that wedding. So many business decisions were taken in that wedding. So it was not just a wedding. It was like a big business networking event that happened. So from a personal branding perspective, Ambani's branding really shot up. And of course, might be a bit controversial, but it was also a branding strategy in the terms of putting Akash Ambani and Anant Ambani out there. It was from that perspective also, to bring them into the limelight.
I completely agree with that. I mean, so true. And that's that's what happens now when you're not just so branding in a way, you're not just projecting yourself, but even you're projecting the power that you hold or the power that you wish to aspire. Is that so?
Yes, yes. So branding is not a, it's not for today. It's a future plan. So whatever you wish to attain, even in future, if you start branding for it from today, uh, it's it's a long way. So I don't know how many of you know or have read all the successors of these big companies. Okay, be it Birla, be it Ambani's, you know, they actually undergo through a rigorous branding um, journey. They have to undergo a lot of training to mold themselves as an entrepreneur. Be it, of course, technical aspects are there, but their communication, the way they will be sitting, the way they will be representing themselves, the grooming, everything goes under a lot of strategy, and that is when they come out as a successor. It's not a day's job. So everything is under branding.
Isn't it so strange ना कि हम उनके branding से we go like wow, right? पर जब भी when it comes to our own venture, when it comes to our own life, हम तो वो करते ही नहीं है कभी भी. We don't want to be. I mean, आपको तो पता ही होगा कि so many people when you tell them कि you should put your views out there, you should write something, you should create some small videos and reels and all those stuff. So there's such a negative way of thinking about it.
Lot, matlab, people think कि putting content out there on social media, like you said, it's very negative for a lot of people. They think it's below my dignity. I have genuinely heard these terms. And so, see, when it comes to finance professionals, especially if we talk about finance professionals who are experienced one, who are like aged about 40, for them, social media is Facebook, where they can just, go and scroll a bit and everything. It's not about content. So when it's not about content, they feel कि यार social media पे क्यों डालना है? It's like putting your personal things over there and everything. So they are not comfortable doing that. The youngsters are, yes, they are a bit comfortable, and the middle generation are confused. So they don't know how to do it. They don't know when to put what, and they don't know, the techniques to do that. So it's divided this way. And yes, people are not, especially from the finance background, people are not very comfortable putting their opinion out there.
So let's talk for people. What are the three actionable steps? ये तो जो next generation है वो तो which is Gen Zs are the ones who are so comfortable sharing their lives out in the open. But what about the ones who are not? So what are the steps कि that they need to put in place ताकि उनका personal brand बनता जाए? Uh, Not just those who are starting the business now, but those who are already in the business. So what are three top things on the top of your mind?
So first thing is know your brand. Because what happens is a lot of people don't even know what is their brand. And when I talk about what is their brand is, like I said, what is your service? Who is your target audience? A lot of people don't even know this. Like they're talking about all the services they are providing. They're talking to, so everybody is their target audience, which cannot happen. So come down to a niche, to a value proposition that you really want to give to your specific target audience. Be very clear about it. Be clear of the kind of branding you want to build. and for whom are you building this brand? Okay. First step is that. Second is that find a platform that is very comfortable for you and where you find your target audience present. Okay. Wrong, like I said, if you're talking to the wrong audience, you'll never get the value. You'll always find that my content is never working because it's the wrong audience. So find a platform where you have your target audience, and at the same time, the the kind of content that is shared over there is comfortable for you. So, for example, I know a lot of people are not comfortable with Instagram because there you have to put your face. Not everybody is comfortable with making
No,
reels or
isn't that strange? Yeah. Okay,
yeah,
comfortable not with making reels, but everybody wants to put their photographs and everything out there, right?
ha. So, but Instagram will work if you are very trendy with whatever's happening on the platform. Only then will you go viral, or your content will work. So choose the platform you're comfortable with and create good content for which adds value not to you but to your audience. So think from that perspective. Why will my audience read this particular piece? Is something you have to understand. So only create content for your audience, not for yourself. And third is please be consistent. If you're not consistent, you're not building a brand. Once in a while, randomly, if you put content, it will never work for you. You have to be consistent in whatever you are doing, even if that consistency means just twice a week. That's okay. But be there twice a week. So that's very, very important.
Consistency is interesting because everybody starts off big and then the energies drop down and the consistency doesn't happen. One of the reasons that I have found personally when I was doing it was when the consistency used to lack was not because I don't have the time and the bandwidth, जो मैं खुद को बाद में बोलता था, but somewhere you are comparing things and saying कि चलो मेरा content या फिर मैं जो लिख रहा हूँ वो चल ही नहीं रहा है, then why do I take the effort to do it? मेरे को ये लग रहा था.
Interesting.
Hmm.
I, you know, a lot of times you brand is something which is built very subconsciously. So people might be reading your content and they're not liking or they're not commenting, but they have certainly have had a look at it. Okay. So even if, and branding is not a like a short period time, like it has to be there for years. So I was listening to one of the content creators podcast, and that person said ki I literally for 6 years I was putting up content with hardly any visibility, but I was putting. And then one sudden day, something worked and my content became viral. And that was my point where I picked up. So if you are looking to build a brand, the first thing is never think that over few months you will create a brand. It will take time. If it is created in few months, you're very lucky and you're doing something very, very right. But if not, it does definitely take time. The idea is consistency. The more you are consistent, it will happen one day. And what happens, especially for finance professionals, is even if you're not getting the numbers, so stop looking at numbers. But if your content is reaching to the right, even 10 people, you're building a brand. Because especially in finance, trust is very, very important. And once you are very consistent with your actions, trust will develop and that will help you build that brand.
This is completely personal branding 101 that you've just given us. Incredible. I mean, there's so many things that I'm taking away today. Very honestly, क्योंकि इतना सारा uh, so people in Thinkley will know, okay, I cannot stay at one place. I cannot be so serious all the time. But I wasn't literally serious today, but there are so many things I was resonating, I was thinking, I was going back and learning about, where I can make a difference in my own, let's say probably a LinkedIn or Instagram, sort of a thing. So, and building that personal brand. Uh, the most amazing thing was when you said कि you have to literally do it for the next stage of your life, or जब ये and naturally it happens ना, जब ये आपका वो विजन बोर्ड बना हुआ है 10-15 साल का, तो आप नेक्स्ट स्टेज का ब्रांडिंग हर बार सोचते हो. दिस इज ऑल्सो सो मेरा विजन बोर्ड है, बट आई हैव नेवर रियली थॉट अबाउट फ्रॉम अ ब्रांडिंग पर्सपेक्टिव. सो टुडे that's also something that I've learned, and it's wonderful क्योंकि एक 1 hour just went by. I mean, we just flew with the time, if you can see that. So, to the restrictions of the thinking, otherwise we can go on for a couple of hours more. And I really thank you from the bottom of my heart today. कि this was not a session जहाँ पे we were talking about branding or we were talking about finance only. ये silo में नहीं था. There was a lot of actionable points. There's a lot that I think what I could sense in your eyes was you were talking about it from your own experience. It was not something आपने कहीं भी किताबी ज्ञान नहीं दिया है कि आपको ये 10 चीज करनी है. No, this is what works for me. This is what I've done. So thank you so much for that. I mean, thank you, Pari. We're really happy to have you. And if there's a session two, and I'll be more than happy, we can have another session where we can go on a few things in more detail for our audiences. Thank you so
Thank,
much.
thank you so much. It was really a pleasure. And like you said, this is a topic which is very close to my heart. So whatever I've said is something that I've really lived by and really experienced. So thank you so much again.
With that, we'll call it the end of today's podcast.